Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Expert to Authority show. My name is Simone Vincenzi, and I'm your host. This is the show for coaches, speakers, and trainers who want to grow their businesses while making an impact in the world. First of all, if you have not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And today we have two, not one, we have two special guests, and we're going to talk about recurring revenues. How do we build a sustainable recurring revenue systems? Now, I'm a huge fan of recurring revenues. I actually based my entire business at GTeX. It was started and fully based on recurring revenues, a pillar of our business. So it's a conversation I'm really excited to have. And our guests today, they have two very incredible complementary skills because Leila expertise, she's a certified NLP master practitioner and a master coach, and she brings the mindset side. While James, he had a lot of success building a recurring revenue program called My Electrician Toolbox as a membership. So he has a great track record on helping others build and launch continuity programs, and they guide both together coaches and speakers and experts through their proven framework to create, launch, and scale thriving membership programs with confidence and clarity. So, everyone who's watching or listening, give a massive round of applause. I can see you in your cars or wherever you are jogging. Give a massive round of applause to Leila Singh and James Dewane. So, welcome, 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 both of you guys. I'm going to start with Leila first because I know starting a membership site or like a membership program or recurring revenue program, people want to often the tactics and the strategies. How do I do it? But then I had a very similar experience that you can teach people how to do it, but if they don't have the right mindset, they will either stop at their first obstacle or they will not even get started. It just becomes a good idea. So I'd love to start with you, Leila, talking about a bit more about if you want to create a recurring revenue program, how do you need to approach it? What is the right mindset to approach it?
That's a really big question, Simone. And I think for me, it's really starting with the why. So why is it you want to even create that longer term sustainable revenue? And when we get that clarity on why we want to do it, it's for me, it's always looking at how are we showing up with that. And what I mean by that is, as you said, you know, people will always go for the strategy, the doing, and let me create a to-do list and go off and do all of these things. And over the years, coaching clients, what is a common theme is that no matter what strategy people have, if they haven't optimized their mindset, and for me, what that means is building really strong, deep self-awareness, then they will struggle. Why? Because they're blindly following a strategy or a bunch of strategies to get to a certain destination, but they're not aware of how they're showing up in doing that. So, what I mean there is we have those fears, right? We all have some level of fear. And until we build that self awareness to recognize that, we're out of alignment with what we're trying to achieve strategically with what's actually occurring internally. Does that make sense? As a kind of overarching kind of point of view, right? So the common, let's say, mindset challenges that people show up with are fear. Fear is the big one, right? And it could be fear of so many things. It could be the fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of success, fear of what other people are going to think, or the more sort of focus on me type of mindset challenges around, am I good enough? Who's going to want to buy from me? Who wants to work with me? All of those, that narrative that we run when we're not confident in ourselves or in our abilities, or we've had past experiences. So in this case, it may be we've tried different things in our business, things haven't worked out the way we wanted, and now we're feeling like we've lost that confidence, we've lost that belief. Is it me? Is it my abilities to do my job well? Is it I'm not technical enough? And all of those things, which often can be subconscious, we're not walking around with all of this running necessarily. Sometimes we don't even realize we're carrying these beliefs, and what can hold us back. and I liken it to having a Ferrari, right? You can have the most, I'm not a Ferrari fan, but you know, if you have the best car in the world, and I'll
Do
go
you
with
see you're not a
BMW.
Ferrari fan? I'm a huge
I'm
Ferrari
not.
fan.
I'll go with
Ah,
a
damn it.
BMW.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of the two-seater cars, but anyway, um, yeah, so it's like having a Ferrari. So you've got the beautiful Ferrari and you get in there, but you put your foot down on the gas and you've got the handbrake on. And the handbrake is this. It's what's going on in here. So you've got everything, but it's not moving forward.
Yeah.
And it's really important to slow down and address that as in parallel to looking at the to-do list, the
Yeah,
strategies.
I can see that happening a lot of times, in particular when someone tried maybe to launch a membership before or another recurring revenue program before, and they had already the idea. They say, okay, I want this to be part of my business, and then they try. Maybe they put something out, and very little happens. They put something out and maybe they wanted to get, as we said in the conversation earlier, like we want to get 50 people, you get three. Reality check. And it's easy to be disillusioned from this kind of situation or to lose motivation or to just think, maybe this is not for me. So if someone had these kind of experiences before, whether they try to launch maybe not even a membership, but other things, and they didn't get the results, and it's playing in their mind, what would you say to them, someone going through this?
Well, first of all, we would focus on the here and now because we I mean it's a saying as well. We have a quote around this about, you shouldn't let your past dictate your future or define your future. So that's the first thing. And we can all have negative experiences in different areas of our life. It doesn't mean that that's a universal experience. I had a client earlier today who said something like that about managers. All managers, you can't trust them. That's her experience. And she said, but that's the truth. I was like, I'll challenge you on that because that's your experience. That's not a truth across the world, the universe. That's what you've experienced. And now you're going looking for that. That's what you're going to experience. You're going to create that because you're already showing up that way. And this is exactly where we start to go deep into this and say, well, let's start with a clean slate, understand why you want this, what is it you're looking to create, what is it you want to achieve, and then start to unpick the things that could potentially hold you back or block you from moving forward.
Yeah, I love that. And for everyone that is watching or listening right now that is thinking about, launching that recurring revenue program, check yourself first because it's easy to buy into an idea. It's easy to say, I mean, the webinar space. So I have a lot of people saying, okay, I'm going to run my webinar. And then I told to them 2 months later, have you run your webinar? No. Have you run your webinar? No. 6 months later, have you run your webinar? No. 8 months later, have you run your webinar? No. 2 years later, have you run your webinar? No. And I'm like, okay, maybe there is something to check in there between what you say that you want to create and actually what you're doing. And those subconscious beliefs play a huge part with that. So for everyone who's watching or listening, think about why do you want that? And also just be aware of what kind of fears, resistances they come up in thinking about the execution of it because that's where the plan then comes into place. Only when you have that, then you can execute the plan. In fact, thank you, Leila, for this introduction. In fact, I want to move now to James, talking about some of the strategies to make it work. So, first step, making sure that you got the right mindset. After we got the right mindset, what are we doing next? James.
Well, I think I'm more about the sort of the systems and the implementation. Um, we've put together this 6-step process and call it a process rather than a complete system because I don't believe any one system is what a person needs. And I think that's partially what's wrong with most of the industry is that people look at membership programs and they believe that they have to have a particular program or a particular system. I'll name drop a little bit. We're talking about things like Kajabi, um, or versions of, and they think that in order to have a membership program, they need a system like that behind them if they're going to do a membership program or a continuity program. And the reality is that you don't have to have programs like that. There are many different ways of running a continuity program or running a membership program. And you don't necessarily need to be a complete tech savvy individual to do it. There's a lot of the tools you're using today as a coach, as a mentor, a lot of the tools that you're using, the likes of LinkedIn, Facebook, WhatsApp, various different apps for messaging services, Telegram, and so on and so forth, that you can actually use to create and develop a continuity or a membership program. And I think the problem that people have is that they link it to a system. And the industry tries to sell them these systems as well. The industry says, well, if you have this program, you have a membership program. And then it all falls down because they buy the software and they don't know what to do with the software or the program. And then the mindset issues kick in again where, oh, I failed, or I can't do this, or I don't know how to achieve it. And I think the reality is when you put the 6 steps that we've put together, I mean, the starting sort of, we've got sort of concept,
Actually,
customer.
before we go to the 6 steps, actually, I want to
Yeah.
leave the 6 steps for a moment because I'd love to continue with this conversation that we started about systems because we are on the same page, definitely. With the agency that we run here at GTeX, when people ask us to build their membership site, or they're asking us to build their webinars and so on, the first thing they say, or they might send me random emails like clients saying, I've seen this system, is awesome. Shall I buy it? And so what they start do right, and so what they start doing is like either they change system every like 2 months, so they're not able to create something continuously. But also it comes down to how the system are marketed, right? It comes down to this is the last thing that you need to launch and have your members here. But you still need to know what to put in there, how to market, how to sell it, like the system. And I would love to expand on that because I believe the system is there to serve a need that we have. We are not there to serve the system.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this, James?
No, absolutely. And I think you've been around this game long enough to know that I think it was probably about 4 years ago, we saw an influx of different types of systems come on board. And we saw people in our space, experts and coaches, flipping from one to the other. I don't want to keep name dropping systems, but there are various different softwares. And one week they're on this one because it's the best thing since sliced bread. And then 3 months later, they're moving across and they're on this one because that's the best thing. And this one offers this and above that. And what they're doing is detriment to themselves because they're losing clients or potential clients and customers along the way because they are more focused on this is going to make my life easier. This is a better system. This one sends out automated emails. This one will allow me to do webinars. This one will allow me to hold training programs. This one will allow me to open up communities and they'll move and jump around. And then as they're doing that, their customers, their clients are getting fed up and going, well, now I've got to change from that to this, and I've got to get a different login, and I've got to get, and they just make it really complicated and complex for themselves. The thing is, any one of these systems will do the job. And in fact, none of them will probably do everything that you want, but there are solutions out there. And I think that's the key thing, is to find a solution that works for you, that's easy for you to implement and to work with, rather than looking at a system and then trying to fit you in around that system.
That's exactly my point. Is like, okay, first understand what you want to build, and we're going to go into the 6 steps in a moment. And then once you know what you want to build and how you want to deliver it, then let's look at what system can serve your business in the best way. So I have a follow-up question for Leila on this, which is why do you think people fall into that trap? Why do you think people they jump from one platform to the other, or they don't build that continuity on a mindset level? Why do you think is the case?
The first thing will be the next shiny object.
Shiny object syndrome.
It's shiny object syndrome. Oh, that's going to be better. The second part of that is the marketing of it. And then you see something all over, for example, Facebook, and then everyone's talking about it. It's like, oh, I need to do that. And then people deposition this product over that product, or you get a new coach or a new mentor and they're saying, no, you need to use it. So there's so many reasons behind it. And I think also where people particularly if they're lacking confidence in the tech side of things, it's easier to then get swayed, because it's like, well, now everyone's saying you don't have to buy like multiple different softwares. You could get everything in one place, and you go, if you buy that, and then it's like, oh my God, it's really complex. How do I even use it? Believe me, I'm not going to name drop either, but the big one that I started with and spent thousands on many years ago, and I had to pay people to help show me what to do with it. It was just ridiculous. So I think it's it's actually a really pertinent point, this, because a lot of people, you think coaches, consultants, aren't necessarily tech savvy, right? And so they're going to be led by others
Mm.
and what people are talking about, the current latest shiny object, or oh, so and so's using this, and maybe I need to use that because they're talking about how successful they are and they've got this,
Yeah.
really big program of members. So I think confidence there and I think James made the point as well, is you can run any program really simply with some fundamentals. I've seen people doing it with a WhatsApp group, Google folders, some Google Docs, and it works. And they can still charge a decent sum for that. It's not because it's cheap and cheerful. It's still giving a load of value. It doesn't have to be overly techy. But I
Yeah.
think the confidence aspect and the shiny object syndrome are the two key things there.
Yeah, I'm with you, totally with you. James, I'd love to move now into the 6 steps. That's a lot of tools about now. Okay, so now we understand also about the system, and there was a very important conversation that we needed to have, because some people, they just feel good to buy a new system that doesn't do nothing for them. So how do we approach building recurring program and recurring revenues from based on your approach? What are the 6 steps that you teach in your programs?
I think the six steps, number one, they're not, and it would be wrong to say that they're new. It's just how you implement them that makes the difference. And if we start with, you've got the concept. What is the actual concept? What is it that you're actually going to build a program around? Then, of course, there's your customer. So you need to define and understand who your ideal customer. Everybody in the coaching industry understands and knows how to create and build their avatar. And then you're looking at the content. What is the content that's missing in the gap? What is the content that you can provide that they can't find elsewhere? Or what way can you deliver it that people will benefit better from it than they're getting elsewhere? Once you've got those three looked after, then you're moving into turning that content into a product. And this comes down to, what system are you going to use? Is it going to be a complex membership program, or is it going to be Google Docs and folders and WhatsApp and so on and so forth? But how are you going to put it together that's going to work for you? And this is, each person is an individual. And this, going back to the earlier question about why people do what they do in terms of getting involved with programs and that, all coaches and mentors typically have coaches and mentors. And if these coaches and mentors are pushing a particular product and saying, you should be doing this, and we know there's one big one in the market at the moment that everybody's doing. And a lot of the time they're doing it because they're getting an affiliate fee out of it as well. So they'll actually push a product because they get the fee, whether it fits your business or not. And I think the difference between what Leila and I are doing is, we're not affiliating ourselves to any one product. It's, what can we build that's going to work for you in your business, in your organization? So that's building out the product. That then comes down to the platform, which is, how are you going to actually deliver that? And from that, is there going to be, inside of your program, is there going to be an element of sort of live broadcasting? Is there going to be an element of drip feeding content out? Is there going to be an element of worksheets, and so on and so forth? So what's going to end up on this platform for you? And then after that, it's promoting it. It's using tried and tested methods to get your customers, the avatar that you've defined, and get them on board. And that can come down to all of the usual standard marketing practices, but what's going to work best for you. So those are, in essence, the 6 steps.
I like that. And I would love to zoom in on one in particular, which is about finding content that other people cannot find elsewhere, or is not delivering the same way elsewhere. Because also in conversation that I have with clients, sometimes that can be the part of, but there is already something out there.
Yep.
Or if you think about this right now, which is going to change a lot how people will consume in the next few years and what people will buy, you can have all the answers that you want now from ChatGPT.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
now the question is why people should even buy a, a membership if they
Yeah,
can find those things. And from the creator of the membership perspective, is okay, how can I make sure actually I create something that is actually going to continue working in the future and is not a lot of work that I'm putting in for people not buying. So what's your take on that, on finding unique angles that now where information are available everywhere?
yeah, absolutely. I've been doing this now. We're coming up on the 12th year. This is 12 years that I've been running my electrician's toolbox myself. Over the last 5 to 6 years, I've helped a number of different sectors, people within sectors. So anything from men's health to a child daycare nursery, kitchen fitter, um, a football referee, and a few others. But we've helped them to build out their continuity stroke membership programs as well. And exactly the same comment or question comes up all of the time. It's why should they come to me? They can get all this information on YouTube. They can go out to YouTube and get this information. And now, as you say, on ChatGPT, they can type in, get a question on ChatGPT. But what they can't get is the experiential element of that. What they can't get is my take on that. So, from the perspective of what I teach electricians within the toolbox, we got the toolbox system is just behind us on the board. But what I teach electricians in the toolbox is available widely on the internet and through any other mentor that you want out there. It is very simple marketing and business development strategies and techniques. They've been there since the dawn of marketing. Yeah, it's all available. But how I deliver that, my personality, the troubles, trials, and tribulations that I've been through while implementing that, the hurdles that I've gotten over while dealing with these issues is everything that I bring to the table. So it's one thing talking about, well, do a very simple one, like how do you deal with or how do you handle magazine advertising? Okay, anybody can tell you, put a nice square magazine ad, make sure your font is legible, blah, blah, blah. Anybody can tell you that. But when I can talk about my experience in dealing with the editor of the magazine, about testing and trialing various different types of type fonts, about trialing different types of copy, and I can tell you what worked best for me, I've now created a shortcut for you to say, well, if that's worked well for him and he's tried it and he's tested it and he's developed it, then maybe that's my starting point rather than starting at scratch. I start at that and then I develop and move forward. I'm not saying that what I'm teaching you is the end of the game. What I'm teaching you is where I stopped. Now you pick up and move on from there.
Yeah.
But it's that whole experiential element of it. And this was we had the very same conversation with, as I said, a football referee. It's like all this information is available free. Well, why would they want to come to me to learn how to ref football matches? Yeah, because you've lived it. It's your experience. It's what you are bringing to the table. So it's not about literally going out and finding new information, because let's be really honest, we're at a stage in history where there's not really a whole lot of new information out there. But it's about how you put together that information. It's about how you deliver that information. And it's about the experience that you can bring to the table while imparting that information. And I
Yeah.
think the nice thing about the community around a membership program is if you build them properly, which is what we will teach you to do, if you build them properly, you're not leaving people to their own devices going, here's information, use it. You're building a community where you, as the leader of the community, are supporting them, but also their peers within that community, within that membership community, they're supporting and helping as well. You don't just buy a membership and become a member and learn on your own. People within my community, the toolbox, they call themselves toolboxers. They meet up regularly, they talk regularly, they have meetings outside of the actual framework of the toolbox itself. They've become a community in their own right, and I think that's what you build in a membership program, and it's that developmental sort of self-teaching, self-learning, communal help that brings it all together as well.
Yeah, and it's about, as you mentioned, it's about how you put your information, how you put your experience together, and how you create a space for people to implement that information. And so I'd love to ask Leila actually about the impact of community, because when you're talking about the mindset side, right? Community has a big impact, and the community needs to be taken into consideration when building a recurring revenue program. So, what's your take on the importance of community in this process, and also from the creator perspective and from the buyer's perspective?
It's important for everybody. It's beneficial to everybody, and it's something I've kind of learned over time because I don't think I appreciated it early on in my entrepreneurial journey because I've always had good people around me. I've always been a part of something, but not necessarily thinking, oh, I'm part of a community. Um, but over time, both with peers and with clients, I've seen actually people place huge value, often without even realizing it, on having a community, people to bounce ideas off, to recognize that, and this is an important one, that they're not on their own, then they're not the only one who maybe thinks they're not good enough, or no one's going to buy from them, or whatever narrative they're running on that day. It's like, oh, other people are like me, they have the same struggles, and then you can bounce off each other, you can learn from each other. For me, it's about getting inspired. The communities that I'm in, for me, it's about seeing what's possible. And actually, there'll be people who are ahead of me in business, there'll be people who are coming up behind. So I love to support the people coming up behind and sharing what I've learned, but also having the people, yeah, 1, 2, 3 steps ahead who I can look and think, oh, that's possible. I hadn't thought of that. They're more inspiring, right? So there's so much you can glean from that. And building networks. I talk a lot about the importance of relationships and nurturing relationships, cultivating them. And I think a network is so important for anybody in whatever space they're in, because it creates that support system. And I think the other thing I was going to add to what James was saying is accountability. I know me for sure, and so many others. I could spend hours trawling the internet even before GPT to go on YouTube or whatever and look for stuff. I'm lazy. I don't want to do that. I want someone to just show me, right, here are my 6 steps. This is what you need to do. Implement, which I know GTeX are renowned for. Actually take action, implement what you're being shown, the strategies, and get the results. And going off on your own, trying to do it, which I've seen so many people do, is it's people then aren't as committed, they're not as bought into the process, and they'll give up very easily. They don't have that support system, they don't have accountability, and then again the mindset piece kicks in because it's hard. It can be hard. So yeah, there's so many advantages to being within a strong community. And I've seen it with James's toolbox. It's incredible. The way people will support each other, they'll pass work on to each other. It's not that competitive environment. People collaborate, and it's similar with GTeX. People will collaborate, they'll support one another. So yeah, there's so much to say about community.
Yeah, but it's great because also it gets in particular talking about recurring revenues as I base my business on that principle. Community is one of the fundamental parts, because after people stop learning from you, there is just as many things that they can learn from you. At some point, they get bored, right? Or they might dip in and out. But if you want to keep them on, they'll keep paying to have access to the other people. They'll keep paying to have access to the other people in the community. So, James, I feel like you want to say something here now.
I'm going to say, I'm sure you are aware, but are you aware that the average lifespan of a member in a membership program is anything between 3 to 5 months? And if you hold somebody for 12 months, you count yourself lucky. Yeah?
Very true.
The toolbox has a 3-year retention rate for the toolbox. Now, if you look at what you were just saying now, they learn everything that they learn within the first 12 months. Everything they need to learn in order to grow their business, they're learning within the first 12 months. So you've got to ask, why are they sticking around for 3 to 5 years after that? And the reason is community. The reason is because it's a sense of belonging. They have fellow members in there. They're not only learning the materials from within the toolbox, but now they're looking at what's everybody else doing and how are we helping one another. So it's the community that keeps them there. And I think it's hugely important when you talk about a membership or a continuity program is to create. Don't create you as the expert. Of course, you've got to be the expert. Don't you? But you are not the be all and end all. The community is the important part of it, and that's what you've got to create, and you've got to foster that and allow that to grow.
It's like that glue that brings everything together. That's what the role of community. And now, going towards the end of this interview, I love to talk about community because one of the best ways to actually build communities is with retreats. And I meet some of my best friends when I go on retreats. I love going into business retreats because they allow me to get something done in a short space of time while building strong relationships. And I know you have a retreat coming up, actually, where you're helping coaches to build their recurring revenue, their membership. So, James, why don't you talk a bit more about that?
We've put together a 7-day retreat. We've done the last 3 years out in St. Lucia with business owners, and now we've put together this 7-day retreat, teaching people how to grow a recurring revenue based on membership and continuity programs. Very much based on the 6 steps that we've talked about in this, and completely encapsulating mindset as well. So it's like a deep integration of mindset and strategy over the course of the 7 days. I not that I'm pitching it, but it's a 7-day all inclusive in St. Lucia. People will say, why St. Lucia? Well,
Why
I think
not?
the answer to that has to be exactly
Why not?
why not exactly. Look, one of the reasons that we started doing it 3 years ago with business owners was we wanted to get them as far away from work as possible into an aspirational environment. We wanted to show them what was possible in terms of when you get away and you don't have people phoning you about your business and about this needs doing and that needs doing. And even if they were starting to call you, you can't do anything about it because you're so far away anyway. And then the environment itself is conducive to learning. You know, you wake up in the morning, you go on a little bit of an exercise, either a walk or a swim. You do a little bit of yoga with Leila. And then we get into starting the day, and our boardroom is on the beach. we have a cabana on the beach. Our boardroom is there. We're all set up, and we mastermind through the 7 days that we're actually out there. Built into it is all of the strategy, all of the mindset, but there's also a number of different excursions which help with what we were talking about earlier, the building of that bond, so that you start to build that community. So we have a number of different excursions, call them team building exercises, whatever you like, but they give you a great opportunity to see the island, to experience different things. Some things you may never have experienced, whether we're talking about scuba diving, parachuting. What else have we done, Leila? There's excursions into the rainforest, going up into the canopy of the rainforest, zip lining, making your own chocolate. There's a number of different things that we've done in terms of team building and excursions. But what I don't want to do is take away from it and say it's all fun. It is fun, but you will come away from it with the foundations of your membership stroke continuity program in place. So you will have breached all of the hurdles as far as mindset is concerned, and you will have a strategy to move forward with to make sure that you get it launched and off of the ground. If you don't actually launch it and get it off the ground while you are there, depending on how determined you actually are.
And also not faff around with what platform you need to use as well.
We're not selling a platform. We're not trying to push people in one direction or the other. But what we will do is we look at your capabilities and help you build your membership and your continuity program. And there is a definition between the two, but it will be built based on what you have available to you and what you're prepared to work with. So no worries about tech fear or anything. And a lot of it is stuff you're probably already using.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend a fortune to become a owner of a membership program.
So if people want to know more about the retreat, where's the best place? Where they can register for more information, find out more? What's the best place?
Yeah, so we have a link for a sales page which basically talks about all of the, what's included, all the benefits, what you will come away with. And it is, she says, I did have this up and now it's disappeared, sorry. Um,
www.
www, that's the one,
Until then, we got it.
leelasing.com. How easy is this?
Say it again.
Leelasing.com,
Say it again.
leelasing.com/retreat.
All right, leilasingh.com/retreat. So make sure you check it out. The link is in the show notes. So if you scroll down or you see the in the comment, depending if you're watching or listening, then that's where you can find the link and check it out because I personally love business retreat. When I had a chat with James and Leila about their plans and the retreat that they want to create, I was like, yes, let's talk about it on the podcast. Let's do a podcast around it. Because in particular, in the past few years, I've been using retreat in a very strategic way. One, they are a smaller group, so they allow you to create much deeper connections with the other people. You have an experience which is completely different from like a conference with like 300 people, where you're just like going from one session to the other, then not even remembering what you heard because you've heard too many different things. So it's a structured approach, and also you're having a good time. So
I think
why
that's
not?
important to mention as well. Is there are only 8 people on this retreat, so it's not going to be throngs of people. There are 8 people, so that we can really immerse ourselves into it and get really involved with everybody.
All right, so leilasingh.com/retreat. James, Leila, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank
And
you.
to everyone watching, listening, take creating recurring revenue seriously, whether it's a membership, continuity program, recurring revenues, because the peace of mind that you will have when you have your expenses at full profits, or at least your expenses covered just by the money that comes in from your recurring revenue, is a different level of business. Like, it's a different level of freedom. I'm experiencing it. I've experienced that for many years, and I will not go any other way. So make sure you learn from it. Make sure you check with James and Lila's work. Go to the retreat if you fancy a trip to St. Lucia, which I highly recommend. It's a beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous island if you have not been there. And also the final thing is to check out the links in the show notes. And then finally, make sure you subscribe to the show. So if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Until next time, always remember that together we grow exponentially. Ciao.